Welcome to Growth Over Comfort, episode 1. I hope you enjoyed the last one. That was just a little pilot that we had for you. And today, this is the real beginning of our journey of Growth Over Comfort. We're going to break down Pickle Rick by Shakk Daddy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be good.
This was hard. I was reading through the lyrics and there's so many layers. There's so much depth to this song. And there's one thing I've got to say, Shakk. It's just modern day poetry.
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you said that. You know, because I mean, maybe not at this level right now, but I think rappers they don't get enough credit for being poets. I believe it is modern day poetry, especially when you get the good stuff. I mean, you know, there is a lot of crap out there. Don't get me wrong. When we're talking about bitches and whores, and that isn't, to some people it might be poetry, but when you dig deep into hip hop and rap, you will find some things that are mind blowing.
Mm-hmm. Where would you say your inspiration comes from? Like a real drive of inspiration musically?
Musically, as in like a certain artist?
Yeah, a certain artist.
I mean, there's several. There's been a lot of people that have had an impact on me, but I'd say I get my inspiration from all types of people. So it could be someone like, when I was younger, it was a lot of Tupac, and as you get older, you start finding inspiration in all types of people doing maybe sports as well. It's just anyone that's got that drive and wants to make a change.
Yeah, seeing the passion inside somebody, that's a big that drives anybody, I think, because I've said this last time, but I think when I watch you sort of dedicate your life to the music and the way that you put the effort in, the time and the commitment into it, it makes me go home, and whenever I can't really be asked, I think, well, no, because I can see somebody else that has this drive inside them, and that in turn gives me some more drive that I already have, and it just sort of reinstitutes my beliefs about myself that I want to keep driving forward. I don't want to take my foot off the gas and take a seat.
No, and I can see that as well, and it's amazing because that's what I really want to set out to do. And I think a lot of the great musicians, they would probably want to do the same thing. We want to connect. We just want to show people that we're all in this together. It can boil down to something as simple as that. We just want to connect and push people through it, because the best musicians have had dark times. And I'm not saying I'm the best musician, but I'm saying a lot of this creativity comes from dark times, and a lot of the drive comes from being in dark places and having to push through when your back's against the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people experience dark times in life. I think a lot of people experience dark times in life without even realising that they're going through a dark part of their life at that moment in time. I think if I'm to look back into my past, I've definitely struggled at times, but without even realising it. And it's only sort of as you come forward and you sort of progress in life and you realise that I had this big desire and this big need inside me, a fire in my belly to change. I didn't realise it was probably because at the time I was struggling with depression. Mm-hmm. And it's only now when I look back that I was more than likely struggling with depression. I never got labelled with it. I never sort of seen a doctor or anything or got any help. What I'd done was I took myself away from sort of how I was feeling at that moment in time, and I realised where I was going wrong in my life, especially with emotions such as aggression. And I feel like that can be so damaging to so many people, but you don't always see it yourself. You think in your own little world that you are perfect, but we aren't perfect. We are imperfect humans in an imperfect world. And when you really sort of look at yourself and you see this desire to change, that's when you know that you probably have been to dark places. That's when you realise that, when you look back to the past now, when I realised there was a need to change, it was probably because I was struggling with depression. And then going through all these processes that I've been through over the last sort of couple of years, I definitely think that now when I look back at it, it's a real big motivating factor of my life. I feel like you're never really failing, you're always learning. You should never look back in your life and think, I've failed here, I've failed there. You should always look at your past and learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. I mean, you've touched on so many key points there, because it's the same for a lot of people that have suffered with depression. They don't realise what they were going through until they're out of it. And that's mainly a thing probably with us youngsters, especially right now. A lot of us are going through this depression and stuff, but we don't know it, and maybe it translates into aggression.
Yeah.
But where does this aggression come from? It comes from this like directionless anxiety you get when you don't really understand why you were feeling a certain way. and you blanket it with different emotions.
Yeah. And you cover it up. You don't want to put the label on yourself a lot of the time. I think that's with some people anyway. That I know when I look back, it was probably my ego taking control of me. Why I didn't put that label on myself as being depressed, because my ego is like, I'm not depressed. I'm not. No way. I'm not. I'd almost see that as
your mind.
It might not have crossed my mind, but I'd probably see it as a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Mate, I'd have to pull this lyric up out of Pickle Rick, by the way. This is what the difference is between me and these little kids. I mean, there's so many ways that people interpret a song, and my perception is different to your perception. So certain words mean different things to different people. And when I look back at the lyric, this is what the difference is between me and these little kids. I'm sort of linking that to you talking about your past. I'm not necessarily thinking of you talking about other little kids around you who aren't in your league. I'm thinking of you talking about yourself in the past as being a little kid. And it's as though this song, to me, you're stamping down a statement. You're out there and you're showing that there's a sense of urgency in your words. The way that you even say urge twice, the way that you say... but what a start, a finish quick. You're showing that there's a sense of urgency there. You want to stamp your authority. You want to make your mark. And when you say that lyric, I won't repeat it again, but with these little kids, maybe you're talking about yourself from the past, and you're showing that a sign of maturity there, and you've took responsibility, and you feel empowered because of that responsibility. And again, that goes on to just learning from your past. I think maybe just when you're writing these songs and you see that you have changed and you have developed and you have matured, that you can sort of now produce these lyrics that you are producing. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, when I the way I approach writing Pickle Rick, it would come to a point in my life where I've literally had to reinvent myself, and a lot of people might not think I got up to certain things when I was younger, but I got deep in a lot of the wrong stuff with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And it's nothing that I need to go into detail about, but it took me so many years to change, and I had to deal with a lot of demons due to the past. And it took me so long to reinvent myself and get to the point where I was confident to go. And when I wrote Pickle Rick was literally, it's first on the EP because it was the first one I actually wrote that set me off to writing the rest of the EP. Because when I heard that beat, I thought, right, I need to tell everyone exactly what I'm about. And it really is a statement. It is a statement because it's showing you, like you've said, I've learned from these lessons, and the reason I say I can compare it to those little kids is because I was one of those little kids too.
Yeah.
And I know the mistakes they're making, and I can understand the psychology very well, because it took me so many years to reinvent myself from that person, from those little kids. So yeah, it is a bit braggadocious at times, but really I just wanted to mix a bit of that with some real facts and some things that really hit home for me.
Yeah, well, you talk a lot of truth in it as well. You even talk about death, and I think that's a deep sort of topic to talk about, because it's not something that really people like to accept, even though it's inevitable. It happens to us all. It's something that nobody really likes to fully open up about and fully talk about, that loneliness, that feeling that you're probably going to get when you do face your death. And there's people who have a fear of death. I was reading an article today about Rita Ora, who she has panic attacks because she's got a fear of death, and it's all to do with when she was 7-year-old. She was playing a game of hide and seek, and she hid that well that everybody disappeared and they never found her. But then she thought the ghost were going to come and going to take her away. So from that moment in her life, she's created this fear of death. It's bizarre when you think of it.
It is crazy. I mean, death is a subject that we ignore a lot, and it maybe is a bit dark for some people, and it is a bit deep. But you've got to realise that it is a part of life, and it's something that one thing that we all definitely have in common is that we're all going to die at some point. And we don't talk about it enough, I don't think, because if there is a fear around it, and it's because it's not talked about enough, and it's such an unknown. Obviously, there's going to be things we'll never know about death, and it's just not something you can really imagine. But for me, what drives me is the legacy after death, because I could have all these materialistic things. I could have a car, I could have a fancy watch, I could have a nice house. But when I die, they're not going to remember me for that nice house.
No.
Okay, and they're not going to remember me for being pretty, for being ugly, for being skinny, for being fat. They're going to remember me if remember me by my propensity to affect people in a positive way, or even a negative way.
Yeah. For the person that you are, not for the things that you own. It's basically, it goes back to what I talk a lot about this. It goes back to your self-worth versus your self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in life think that they have to be worth something to society to actually be a decent person. They think that they have to be successful in the career. They think that they have to have a big car. They think they have to have a big car, a flash car. They think that they have to have a big house because that gives them a big sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
But in reality, that damages the self-esteem because they realise that those materialistic items, they only keep them happy for a certain period of time.
Absolutely.
And then they move on to the next thing, and then they move on to the next
Always
thing.
want more.
Yeah, they always want more. And we live in a society that...
It's based on that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Society's created around that. Capitalism.
Yeah, the capitalism.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So we all live in this type of world, unfortunately, and it's sad because there comes a point, maybe about 16, where growing up becomes more about these materialistic things, and it's not about your maturity. People think their maturity is shown through a car or a house or a relationship, whatever. But really, it's sad because materialistic things do not. It's not synonymous with growing up. Okay. Gaining stuff like that, gaining materialistic stuff is not a sign of growing up at all.
No.
Okay, it's dealing with your emotions that are going to show if you've grown up or not. Because I always feel like when it comes down to the crunch, and if we go back to death, when you're lying there on your deathbed, are you going to be thinking about, I didn't get the new Merc?
Yeah.
Are you though, really?
No.
I'm sure there's been many rich people that have been on that deathbed and their last seconds, they thought, fuck, I didn't need that car.
Shakk, how many people do you think lie in their deathbed and actually turn around and say, I wish I made more money in my lifetime?
Well, this is exactly it. So it's so much easier to track your progress through gaining materialistic things, and that's why it becomes such an addiction, because it becomes a show of your success. But is that really success?
It's what other people perceive as success, but in reality it isn't success. Success for me is just being a nice person who doesn't judge others. It's basically working on my self-esteem instead of my self-worth. So I'm happy to live in a small place. I'm happy to own a shitty van.
It's not a shitty van, though.
It's a big van. I'm not bothered. It keeps me happy. It's all I need. I don't care what anybody thinks of me when I'm driving down the street. All I care about is that inside me that I'm doing a lot of work on myself, to become a better person.
Growing emotionally rather than materialistically.
Absolutely. And
that's the most important thing.
And it's all to do with developing my own self-esteem. And I think we as individuals should all concentrate on growing our own self-esteem rather than our self-worth.
I really love that, because generally speaking, we tend to wait for other people to change before we change. But when you just concentrate on yourself and your own goals, you become that change. And people say you can't change the world, but let's be realistic. Even a small change is change.
You can change your world.
Exactly.
You can't change the world, but you can change your world.
Absolutely, Joel. You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And people need to be the change they want to see. Yeah. And it's become this thing where you were following trends too much, and it's just like, it's not working out for us, really. A
lot of the time, it's your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind takes absolute control. It makes 95% of your decisions. If your subconscious mind makes 95% of your decisions, that's it. That includes controlling your emotions, controlling your thoughts, controlling the way that you perceive somebody else's words. If you're telling me a story, my subconscious mind interprets that in a certain way. And I think with it making 95% of those decisions, what you got to really do is try and tap into it. If you can tap into that subconscious a little bit, you realise when that subconscious mind is taking control of your own conscious mind. And when you can tap into that and really start to control it, that's when you can start to force yourself to change in life, because your subconscious mind doesn't care if you it doesn't care for your wealth, it doesn't care for your health, it doesn't care if you're a fit person. All it matters is that your personality survives. So if yesterday you ate a slice of cake, the next day it's going to eat a slice of cake again, because it's going to accept that you are still alive today. All it cares about is your survival. So it doesn't want you to change, because it thinks that change might sort of kill it off. It thinks change is bad.
Your brain wants to be... Your body wants to be comfortable. That's why if it's a shock to the system when you try something new. But have you ever noticed, like, you might put something off, like, let's say, like, going to the gym, you put it off, you like, you get all this weird anxiety.
Yeah.
But when you actually go to the gym, all that goes away.
Yeah, yeah.
And the same applies with everything in day-to-day life. Like, I've been at some low points before. I was even worried to go to the shop. Like, what? And I'm sure there's people that have felt the same way, where they get this anxiety. This is when you're in your dark moments. You're scared to go places for this unknown anxiety of, like, being judged or whatever.
Yeah, it's being judged. It's got to be. The fear of being judged.
Yeah. And it's, yeah. So, I understand.
When it comes to fear of being judged, it's strange this. I was thinking about this in the drive here. And I was listening to your music.
Yeah.
I was smashing Pickle Rick out loads of times, trying to listen to it over and over. And I was singing it and singing it and singing it. And then I made eye contact with somebody and I stopped singing it. And when I stopped singing it, like 10 seconds later, I was like, I only stopped singing that then because I was scared of them judging me. Yeah. So for the rest of the drive, I was like, nah, I'm going to carry on singing. I don't care what anybody judges me for. I'm happy with who I am. I'm proud of who I am. So they can judge me all they want for singing away. I'm happy.
Live life like no one's watching.
Yeah.
I mean, this is part of growing emotionally, but the society we live in makes people feel like, let's be honest, it makes people feel like they can't survive without these materialistic things.
Yeah.
And it's just like about just learning that there's so much more out there that you can gain, rather than being on Instagram showing off this, showing off that, showing off.
Post it on Instagram.
Well, it's nothing bad with doing that though. That's the thing. You can post. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you're obsessed with this this view that materialistic things, like, you need these materialistic things to survive. Mm-hmm. I mean, commercial society has created the illusion that we need them type of things.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, that's the truth though, isn't it? Look at the media, what's being pushed out to us. They make us think that we have to have these things to survive and to fit in, even though, like, our core needs are much more simpler.
Yeah, our core needs are much more simpler.
Yeah, we confused. You know what? I'm so glad. I've wrote about this in the past. That's why it's coming off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Right. It's because we confuse necessity with luxury.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that's where it comes down to. We've been falsely advertised these things, like we need the newest car, you need the newest, I don't know, trainers, this, that, and the other, and it's false, man. There's so much more to life than this.
Oh yeah, there's so much. It's up to you what you make of life. I think, and you've really got to give yourself a purpose in life. I think if you were to turn around and ask that question to somebody as an individual again,
purpose.
What is your purpose in life? There's 7.5 more than that billion people on this planet. How many people do you think can turn around to you and tell you what their life purpose is?
I'm so happy you've linked that in, because these type of things, they stop people from finding out what they truly desire.
Yeah.
So these are all distractions to stop you from finding out your purpose.
Yeah. We are governed by distractions. In fact, I'm going to talk about meditation a little bit, because I think for me personally, that is where I can really control the distractions in my life. Mm-hmm. When I meditate, there's many different reasons why I meditate. But what I do, I have a strict morning routine. I'll wake up at 6 o'clock, and the first thing I'll do in the morning is I meditate, and I'll use the app that I sent to you, Insight Timer. Mm-hmm. Brilliant app, massively recommend it. And all I do is a nice little guided meditation. And for me, all it is taking 10 minutes out of my day where I can just really try and focus on one thing. Originally, it was always around the breath. And what I was trying to do is just sit there for 10 minutes and control all my breathing and concentrate. And you realise where you're at for that day. You realise that when you wake up in the morning, that's instantly that internal chatter starts going around inside inside the maze of your own head. That internal chatter starts going around, and it's a good way to sort of see where you're at for that day. You don't always know why you're feeling a certain way, but meditating certainly helps you understand where those thoughts are arising from. Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll always repeat it to myself, as I always say, think about a moment in time where you wish for this moment right now. So it makes me very grateful. It expresses the emotion gratitude. So I feel grateful for where I am right now in this moment in time. I'm not asking for anything more. I'm not asking for anything less. I'm happy. I'm content. And again, but I think when I've spoken to people about this in the past, and they say that they've tried meditating and it doesn't work for them. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a skill. It's like anything in life. I'm still shit at it now, and I've been doing it religiously for about a year. No, religiously for about 6 months, but I've been doing it for about a year properly. And you've got to train yourself. You've got to practice. It's like anything that you do in life. You've got to acquire a skill over a certain period of time. You've got to put the practice in. You've got to put the determination and the effort into it. And if you do that, you then start to be able to gain a bit of emotional intelligence about yourself. You get a better understanding of how other people are sort of speaking to you, because you realise that it's up to you. You can take you can take responsibility in how you take their words. That you might take their words as an insult, and that might not damage you for the rest of the day, but they didn't mean it as an insult. It's just the way you've interpreted it. So it's a good way to sort of understand the way that your mind works and your thought process.
Yeah, I understand, and with meditation, it's something that it's something that doesn't suit people, all types of people. Even though I recommend it to absolutely everybody, because we'll get into it where how much it's helped me just in the last week or so. Because I was one of the people that denied it until I even though I could speak to you, like I meditate every single day. For a long time, I researched about it so much, but didn't even want to do it, and that's because I wasn't in the right mental space, and it attracts a certain person that needs the meditation. It's almost like you get to a point and you're like, I need to try this now.
Yeah.
You do, and it's because it's not something that's it's not appealing to someone that feels like they don't need it. You know, like a lot of people don't understand they're depressed at a certain time.
Yeah.
You might not realise how good it is just to have those moments where you can meditate, because essentially what the meditation does, it allows you to block whatever's in your mind at the time, and when your thoughts consume you. So when your thoughts really start to consume you, it takes something drastic to break out of that cycle.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've heard Terence McKenna say psychedelics can help through with that, but like that's meant to be a fast track. But if you don't want to take psychedelics like Terence McKenna suggests, you could do stuff like meditating, because it allows you to just block out those thoughts that are consuming you through the day. It could be like you feel offended that someone's upset you, just let that go. You could be thinking of something that happened 5 years ago, let that go.
Yeah.
And until you're ready to let these thoughts go, you're not really going to enjoy meditating.
No, that's a good point, that, and that's, again, it comes back to me. I'll go back to what I was saying previously, recognising the need to change in my life. I think when I look back to my past and I seen a lot of aggression there, that was definitely damaging other people's lives, like I said. And I think I had to get into the right headspace. I had to be in the right frame of mind to then realise that meditating is definitely going to help me going forward. So then I started to read about it. That's when I started to do it, and that's when I started to incorporate every day of my life. Yeah. And it's not just meditating. There's more stuff. You can't just meditate. You can't just meditate and then expect yourself to have this sort of spiritual life and be positive about everything, because that's not the way it works. No. You got to understand there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to change in life. But meditation is definitely a massive start, and it's a big boost to me in my life and my own self-esteem.
It really does help with a lot of things. So even if you have trouble sleeping, you know, a lot of people have trouble staying in those still moments. That's why it happens a lot of people when they're going to sleep, because that's probably the only part in the day where they've had to be alone with their own thoughts. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people have trouble sleeping on the night, and basically that's because you're leaving it all too late and you haven't processed all these thoughts that are in your brain. Your brain's so powerful. So you need to start to understand how powerful your brain and how much that has a impact on what you do in day-to-day life. You think you're in control, but trust me, most of the time it's you working on autopilot. And what meditation does, it allows you to have those moments to really process what's going on in your life. And even if it's just for 10 minutes a day, it's going to make a massive difference. So
10 minutes is nothing either.
It's not. And you know what, day-to-day life, let's be honest, day-to-day life is grueling. Like, if you're working, you're forced to be there on time, you're forced to do everything perfectly, you're forced to wake up every morning. You have to do all these things routinely like a robot. And there comes a time where every machine breaks. Every machine has a fault. So if you're working yourself like a machine, you're going to have one of those breakdowns. And if you let your body rest, it's only right you let your mind rest too.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to let your mind rest. Recovery is key to everything. And there's a unbelievable podcast by Joe Rogan, and it's on the I can't remember the name of the doctor, which is a bit of a shame, but it's all about sleep for 2 hours, and for 2 hours solid they are talking about sleep, and that is it. and the way that it helps you recover, and it's so important in life. I was so boring. I try to get to sleep every night before 10 o'clock. I just know how important. I know I'm going to be up at 6 the next morning. I know that I want to get my 8 hours in. Sometimes it doesn't happen, don't get me wrong, and I'm happy to let my head down every now and then, but I do like to think that most nights I will get myself to sleep by about 10 o'clock.
Well, that's what gives you your edge, making sure you get to bed on those times, and when you wake up, you know that you've had that sleep, and it gives you the confidence to go for the rest of your day. That's why people who have bad sleep tend to struggle through the day. It's because they haven't. It's the foundations of a good sleep on the night is the foundations of a good day. Great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why some people stumble through the day because they've had a shit sleep.
Do you know things like implementing things like meditating in your life? It might not even be meditating. You know what? You could get that same type of feeling from hiking.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're pushing yourself to those limits, you really have to dig deep inside yourself, and that's what we were speaking about it earlier with Chris.
Yeah,
those are the type of things that you enjoy, because in that moment you're one-on-one with yourself, and you're like, I'm pushing through these barriers right now.
You are fully focused on the task at hand. You are fully focused.
Rewarding.
Yeah, it's so rewarding. It is so rewarding, and there's a lot of ways to meditate. You can meditate on the move. You can meditate a little bit apprehensive about saying this, but you can meditate at a red light. Don't let yourself
breathe.
But all it is breathing. It's all it is focusing, and and taking a moment to yourself. You can meditate in the queue in Tesco. Yeah. You can meditate wherever you want. Honestly, the best thing to do
in the queue in Tesco.
you can do it because everybody's in such a rush in life. I think the best thing to do is when you stood in the queue and you see people, you see the edgy movements, you see the twitchiness, you can see them looking for the queue to slow down, to speed up. And then you can literally stand there and be like, I'm going to meditate here. I'm just going to slow down. I'm going to really slow down.
It's important just to whatever you're doing is just, you need to realise that you deserve to give yourself a chance to really process your thoughts and emotions, because you know what, a lot of people have gone most of life without doing it at all, and they avoid it. So like, a lot of people like to keep busy, and I think that's absolutely amazing, but there's a lot of people that keep busy because they're avoiding those moments of being alone.
Yeah.
It's like an escape from reality.
Yeah.
So they're constantly looking for those escapes from reality.
I think that's a bit of fear taking control when you see people actually doing everything but nothing. Like when you do it all the time. I'm saying you're scared. You do it all the time in your flat. You're always busy, like flying around trying to do things, but at the same time you don't achieve nothing.
Well, it's not very nice.
You just end up being busy for nothing. And I almost feel like a lot of people, and I'm not saying this to you by the way, but when a lot of people are doing it, it's as though like they are scared to be on their own, in their own company, because they don't understand their own thoughts. So they try and find themselves busy. They try and find themselves things to do because they want to actually distract themselves from what the mind is actually telling them.
It's chaotic, isn't it? The mind's chaotic place. So, do you know, I always put things off, like writing things down. Like, do you really think you can keep up with your brain and your mind? It's you know how quick, like right now we're talking and I'm thinking of 101 things. It's so important just to write some things down. The most important things you think of, write those down.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing it, ask yourself why.
Yes.
Why are you being so resistant to these ideas? Because your mind is so chaotic. And you've got to think.
But it's also so creative. Your mind is so creative.
It is, and that's why it's important to just get things down. And it's just so important. So the most successful people around you think that they just had everything in the brain. You're going to need to write these things down. Yeah. And that's if you really want to move towards your goals. Yeah. And I mean, at home, I know what you mean. Sometimes my brain it's an absolute chaos. I'm thinking I can't do a normal task without thinking of the future and. Well, at times anyway, and I'm sure people can relate to that. Yeah. Like, you're just in different places at once. Yeah. You're consumed by these thoughts, and that's why you need to write things down. That's why it's good to meditate. It's good to go on your hikes. It's good to do all these different things. It just all helps in gaining a different perspective. And sometimes you need to come back to your notes to understand that. Yeah,
I'm a big believer in writing stuff down. I've got so many notepads now. I've got stuff stuck on the wall all over the place. I try and write down in my phone first, and then I'll go to a notepad later, because I always believe pen and paper is a lot better than your phone. I try and take the phone a little bit away from myself. It's just handy at that moment in time. But you just mentioned their goals, Shakk, and It's Tom Evans that we listen to. I recommended him to you on on the Insight Timer on the app. I
love
messaged
to
him.
meet this guy.
There was this one guided meditation that he'd done, and it was definitely the most in tune with my senses I've ever felt in my life. And I had to comment on it straight away. And he replied, like, just saying thank you.
Amazing.
And one of the sort of bits within this guided meditation, it says, don't set goals on targets. Set goals on wanting to learn. And when the world throws you an obstacle, trust this like the world is giving you the lesson that you asked for.
Beautiful.
So, it is. It's absolutely.
Really
it's so relevant. And then to link that in with you, with your lyric within Pickle Rick, my only goal is feed my family, feed them knowledge, feed them truth, steer them from insanity. That's clarity. Boom. It's absolutely perfect. Yeah. And I think because of that, I should play Pickle Rick.
Yeah, let's play Pickle Rick.
Let's play
go.
Pickle Rick.
Like a German mercenary, got the urge to burst a cherry. Call you Joseph cause you're not bursting any, just like the Virgin Mary. I got the urge, it's scary, cut 'em like the surgeon's ready. Flying out of this planet, none of you earthlings get me. Rebel child, devil inside, I'll make the heavens cry. Sever ties when I recognize, take your heads as prizes. Break the head advisors, pay the prices that the stakes are higher. Call me Rap Stanley Miller, cause I'll electrify you. Spark the dark darts and hard sprints, melting like Haagen-Dazs. Half my scars, carved my bars, pin felt like a sharpened shard. The shark's in charge and I'm starving, barging you fishes wish. I'll be calm and not harm, but what I start, I finish quick. Limitless, the empty blasting crash through this mirror glitch. I didn't give a shit, now I know life is a privilege. I write till I'm crippled, sick and green like I'm Pickle Rick. This is what the difference is between me and these little kids. Sacrifice, past the lights like acolytes are passing Christ. I catch the mic, attach my wire, fire through your plastic hype. Disaster strikes, I trash the sight like a nasty fight. I'm miles in front of you bitches, you'll have to catch a flight. Passion like Tyson, assassin like picture perfect punchlines. Caption it, action mic, lift to work the front lines. Capture them, slash and slice, only spit those good rhymes. Amateurs, that's a strike. Listen, hold on. The afterlife will always be an unknown. A guy caught 3 shots and that was free to the dawn. I know freedom isn't free, they'll never leave us to grow. No, there's children that only achievement is seeing their home. Why? It begs the question, how many military operations shocked the nations that had no resentment? How many CIA coups did they forget to mention? Methods to bring independence, that's why there's intervention. Knee deep in repeated deceit, the TV, the media keeps me from real sleep. Defeat is not an option that is available. This is not a treaty, peace is unobtainable. I wasn't born a monster, I forced myself and taught myself to tour and conquer. Call the doctor, my force a problem, can you take more for longer? I'm all in constantly, the source is the unconscious me. Nothing's written like Socrates was toppling democracies across the seas. Talk is cheap just like your prophecies. War makes too much profit, see these kids are getting bombed with ease. From Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, Palestine will never die. Tell the thieves we'll never truce to them. History's no mystery, sit and read this list with me. Killing innocent human beings is never a victory. South America, Africa, Middle East, no coincidence, these continents have blown to smithereens. Perilous beef, defending my speech like I'm Evelyn Beatrice. The devil is sweet, but the rebel in me will sever this peace feast. My only goal is feed my family, feed them knowledge, feed them truth, feed them from insanity, that's clarity. Thought-provoking, ignored and broken, that's the source of omens. I'll force an ocean split with or without the cause of Moses. I'm here to stall you poses, fear will haunt you poses. Look where the taunting drove is, ghosted like haunted chauffeurs. One of the best, don't mind the accent, I'm sunning the rest. I rose from an underground tunnel of death, the front of my breath. Mumble and beg, backstabbers, I'd rather watch you crumble and said. Trouble ahead, the ice on your wrist, cause you to double your debt. I'll take a second to remind that jerk, you're still a bitch, keep moving in your finance smirk. I said bitch, keep moving or you find these words directed at your skull like a Chinese curse.
Shakk, Daddy's still on his phone. Oh, he's pulling the headphones off the microphone. Is this going to be the reintroduction every time we listen to a song?
No, let's go, Joe. Let's go.
I'm just messing, I'm just messing. So, if you want to talk about goals, have you set yourself any goals for the future, Shakk?
I've. You know what? I just want to keep making more music because I feel like I've started really good. It's only been 6 weeks since I put out my first song.
Whoa.
So quite a lot's happened in 6 weeks, and I feel like I've made a bit of a statement in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But there's still a long way to go. So I haven't finished. I still don't feel comfortable in that spot yet. I still feel like I've got a lot to prove, not to myself more than anyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to keep going for now.
It's got to mean more to you as an individual, and if I was, so I've just signed up for the Ironman.
Yeah.
Gave myself 3 months to do it, and it's the full one. It's in Wales, so it's 2.4 mile swim. It's 112 miles on the bike, and then it's a marathon, so 26.2 mile run, all in one.
Yeah.
And most people take a lot of time and a lot of commitment to sort of train for these events, and I've decided to just throw myself in the deep end, give myself 3 months to prepare. And you know what? When I look at the bigger picture right now, I know that it makes so much sense because I'm doing this all for myself. So
Yeah.
this is a goal that is purely about me digging deep. When I find myself in those tough situations, when I'm training really hard or when I'm in a competition, that's when I find that all of the insecurities that I have about myself come to the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
And that's when I start thinking that I'm not good enough. That's when I stop believing in myself. That's when I start looking at other people, comparing myself to them and thinking, nah, I'm a piece of shit, I don't deserve to be here. So for me, this Ironman, it's so important for me to go through because I think it's such a big challenge for me personally. Whenever I've competed in the past, it's always been against other people. And when it's a competition, that'll only motivate me for so long until I'm just like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm competing against others. And that really is me just trying to drive my own ego, trying to finish first.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to win the Ironman. It's not even possible. So for me, I can take the competition out of it, drop the ego and battle my insecurities and battle myself and fire myself through that course. And I'm just going to put everything that I've got out on there and I'm just going to fully commit to it.
That's what's beautiful about the Ironman, isn't it? I hope one day that I can join you on one of these missions.
Shakk, you can join in on anything you want to join in if you really put your mind to it.
Well, what you're doing now is just such a massive feat, and you know, from watching people's stories on the Ironman, it changes people's lives and forever, and for the positive reason, because it's another time where you're just forced to deal with your own emotions.
Yeah.
So you can't run away at that point.
No.
You know, you can't just say I'm off. You can stop the race, but you're not
quit.
in there to stop the race.
You can quit, but
Let's all be real. You're not going to quit.
No.
You're going to be there battling.
Yeah.
And the Ironman, from what I've heard, a lot of it is mental. Because you can put the work in to get the physical side right, but when you're on there, you're going to be facing a lot of your mental battles. So I'm really glad that it's inspiring for me. You know, like you've said that I've inspired you. Well, this is inspiring for me. I can watch you and Matthew Downing, go through this crazy,
it's gonna be fun,
crazy mission.
Yeah.
And I can't believe there's a marathon at the end because I couldn't even do the marathon on its own.
What do you mean? Oh, Shakk, I'm sure your legs don't swell when you go for a walk.
Do you know what? I don't think I've ever ran further than what is it? Is it 1,200 meters? 12. Yeah.
No, you do the 1,500 in school.
1,500, yeah. I've never ran further than the 1,500 metres in my life. Maybe this is some... We were saying this, Joel, so maybe after your Ironman and you've went through all this training, I know you're putting the hours in at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do a little life swap.
Yeah. So this is a challenge that Shakk's put towards me today. I think after this Ironman, I'm fully in. What we have to do is you have to take 2 weeks living in the other person's shoes. So Shakk spends 2 weeks as me, and I spend 2 weeks as Shakk, and we see how we both feel at the diet and the sort of lifestyle.
Habits.
Yeah. Oh no, this is going to kill me.
That means you have to sleep when I sleep. You have to read what I read. You have to watch documentaries I watch.
This is gonna be interesting.
And you do barely any exercise.
Barely.
Which might be a bonus for some, but not for you.
No.
So how many hours of exercise? If I was to replicate you right now, how many hours of exercise would I need to do?
I'm aiming for 15 hours a week at the minute. I'm aiming for 3 sessions in the pool, 3 sessions on the bike, 3 sessions running. So yeah, and we're gonna. And we're going to see after these 2 weeks, we're going to see how we both are mentally. We're going to compare ourselves.
Are you serious about this?
Yeah, I'm serious about this, mate.
2
You
weeks.
have to be fully in for this, Shakk. If you put it towards me,
it's gonna be a bit crazy to see what positives we gain and what negatives. To be honest, I can see it already because I'm going to get quite a lot of positives from your lifestyle because you do similar things as me and you do the exercise on top. Where mine is I'm sorry, Joel, you're probably going to feel a bit down in the dumps after this 2 weeks. You're going to feel down.
Mate, imagine I loved it.
You'll be a lot smarter.
Mate, imagine I loved it, and after the 2 weeks I was just like, I'm never training again, Shakk. You took me out of everything. You took me out of everything.
Well, you might actually be able to kick out a few rhymes.
Well, I might be able to, mate. I'm all in constantly.
So, do you know, before we wrap this all up, the decision you made to do the Ironman is a decision that is hard to make. And I think when it comes to making these big decisions, it could be joining the Ironman. It could be just deciding to get fit in general. It could be starting to meditate.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these decisions, it can boil down to being confident and unconfident.
It can. And I've asked this question before. Is confidence an act?
Yeah.
I think confidence very much is an act. I think, and I almost think you've got to, it's a bullshit phrase and I hate it. You've almost got to fake it until you make it. When it comes to being confident, where does it really come from? Is it just an act that you put on to the world?
Face those fears, isn't it? So you come to the point where you face those fears, and I think confidence can be an act to a certain extent. I mean, there's been plenty of situations where I've pretended to be confident and I really wasn't. But then there's been situations where I really was confident. Let's take when
you're on stage.
Exactly. I mean, you've seen it for yourself. I am a different. Even when I'm writing and performing, I feel like I transform character. And it's probably who I really want to be inside, because when I'm on that stage, I'm so confident.
That's who you are.
I really feel like if there was a bull in front of me, I'd take the bull out. Like, that's how I feel on that stage. It gives me so much empowerment.
Yeah.
And I think when you're making these decisions in life, it is you need to transfer that, whatever that is, when you're in your element, when you're doing something you really love.
Yeah. You
need to transfer that in everyday decision making.
I think, so that feeling that you're talking about right there, everybody should try and, everybody knows that within their life they've experienced that feeling that you've just explained.
Yeah.
And if you can take yourself back to that emotion that you felt when you had that feeling, and you think about the most important part of why you were feeling like that, then you start to understand your values. So if you talk about when you're on stage and you say that's when you feel at your most sort of fulfilled, that's when you feel most at yourself, at one with yourself, that's when you can really start to understand what your values are in life. So for you, confidence must be one of the most important values to you in your life. So when it comes to making a big decision, like should I say this to a certain person? Should I say that to a certain person? You know that within yourself, you should be confident, so you can act confident, and that makes the tough decisions a little bit harder. Yeah. It makes you be confident in yourself.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of us, we lose confidence in a lot of things. So let's say change, for example. I mean, we should be confident, because if you're looking past, although we see a lot of things that are going bad on the news and stuff like that, there's been so much change with health, medicine, science. All these things have all changed through the years, and a lot of them have changed in a positive way. I mean, we've got a lot of downfalls with technology and whatnot, but a lot of things have changed, so we should be confident that change will happen. But there's a lot timid people can learn from their confident counterparts.
Yeah, act like the lion that's inside you, don't act like the mouse.
Exactly. Sometimes you need to make decisions with we're timid when we're making a lot of decisions in life, and that's what's going to hold us back.
Yeah.
And it's when you can have some confidence in your decision making, and I feel like as long as deep down you're a good person and there's love inside of you, then be you unapologetically.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say that with a northern accent when you're trying to chill out. I'd have to say it in a different voice, but I really don't want to do that.
Unapologetically.
So be you unapologetically. Okay, because if you can't, that's not. Of course, that's if you're not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
don't be a piece. Yeah. There's many pieces of shit.
But if there's love inside of you, be you and be proud of you, and that's going to make you so much happier, because there's this fine line between self-criticism and self-hate.
Yeah.
You can criticise yourself, of course, but don't hate yourself.
Yeah.
And this comes down to a lot of our education growing up has been so flawed, and it's been so detrimental to the way we've evolved as people.
Yeah.
Because imagine now if we were at school and we were taught to meditate, we were taught to process our emotions, we were taught about our finances when we leave school. We were taught about government, politics. Imagine if these were part of our curriculum. Imagine if history was actually the history that's relevant to us now.
Yeah.
We would all be, it would be so much beneficial for us as a society.
It's a society, yeah.
And it's dangerous, and some people might not want that. But let's not open that can of worms. Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody. not everybody does want that though. People are happy just going through the life with the thumb up their ass, basically.
A lot of rich people that want to keep that power, and that goes up higher in the hierarchy.
Higher in the chains.
Higher in the chain, yeah. So it opens up a can of worms. But at the end of the day, sometimes we need to take it upon ourselves to go out there and learn these things.
Yeah, you need to take responsibility in
who you are,
and the information that you put into your own mind.
So yeah, criticize yourself, don't hate yourself, and be confident in the decision makings, because that's been a key part of me being able to get back into this music.
Yeah, I think so. Fear. We'll go back to fear. Be confident and don't live in fear. Like you say yourself, fear will haunt you. Poses. Fear controls us all so much in life. I think that brings me back to the title of the podcast, Growth Over Comfort. We've spoke about this in the pilot, but this for me is basically the prime example of who I want to be in my life. I want to be somebody who's pushing the boundaries of where I don't feel comfortable, and because I know when I step outside of that comfort zone, I'm going to grow. I'm going to become a better person. Next time I go into an uncomfortable situation, I'm going to have more confidence in myself, because I know I've put myself into that awkward situation in the past, and I've learned a lot from it, and I've grew with myself. And I do like to believe that me, you, anybody else that we get alongside us on this podcast, we are all going to grow together. Mm-hmm. And this podcast would hopefully grow big, and people will enjoy listening to it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just the beginning, and we're going to have guests on the show. I can't wait to have some guests on the show.
Same, it'll be brilliant.
Imagine that.
I know.
It's just going to absolutely change the dynamic. Right now, what we really want to do is just let loose, and so we can go back, analyse it, and realise when we're talking too much, when we're talking too little.
Yeah.
Maybe we're talking too much crap.
Yeah, maybe we are. I listened to that first pilot episode over and over again, and I swear I hated it. Every single time I listened to my own voice, I was just like, oh, shut up talking. Yeah. Why do you say this? Why do you say that? I have a tendency to repeat words. I have a tendency to talk too fast. But you know what? It's the first one I've ever done, and I'm just going to keep on growing. Like I said, I am proud. I should be proud. But like what you just said earlier, there's a fine line between self-criticism and self-hate, and I do believe all I've done is constructively criticise myself. It was quite damaging at times, because I was ripping myself apart. But I do believe that it was just constructive criticism.
We don't want to be perfect.
No.
We just want to be excellent.
On that note,
is this it?
I think this is it, Shakk. We've done.
Round it up. I could go all day. Honestly. We could I know there's some ravers coming here after this in the studio. We might be able to get a bit of their session. I don't know. No,
nice.
We're joking. Joel, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as always, Shakk.
Thank you very much, Chris the engineer, as well.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.